Detroit is collapsing before our eyes. 38,000 auto jobs have already vanished. GM just lost over $1 billion in profit. Factories are going dark. Automakers are fleeing, not slowly, but in a stampede to Canada and Mexico. What was once the proud engine of American power is now bleeding out. And the terrifying truth, this collapse has only just begun. Let's not sugarcoat this. What's happening in Detroit right now isn't a bump in your road. It's the unraveling of America's industrial heart, and it's happening faster than anyone expected. 38,000 jobs, gone. Not threatened, not at risk, gone. Families that depended on steady paychecks from Ford, GM, and Stellantis now face empty kitchens and mounting bills. And behind those numbers, communities on life support. Neighborhoods where every closed plant means another shuttered diner, another empty house, another town square that feels like a ghost town. At the corporate level, the hemorrhage is just as severe. GM has reported a staggering $1.1 billion hit to its operating profit in the second quarter alone. Net income down 35%. Stellantis, another giant, has warned of a $3.7 billion Canadian loss tied directly to tariffs. The numbers aren't abstract. They're flashing red sirens of a system breaking apart. So how did the once proud Detroit machine arrive here? One word: tariffs. Trump's trade war was sold as protection, a shield for American jobs, a rebirth for American industry. The promise was simple: punish foreign rivals and America wins. But the reality? America is punishing itself. Here's the hard math. Trump's tariffs are projected to increase federal revenues by $171.7 billion. That's 0.56% of GDP. Sounds impressive on paper, but peel back the headline and what you see is the largest tax hike since 1993. And the people paying it? Not China, not Europe, ordinary Americans, car buyers, workers, families. Let's talk Canada. For the first time in 3 decades, Canada imported more vehicles from Mexico than from the United States. Read that again. Canada, America's closest trade partner, has shifted its buying power south. That is a tectonic shift, and it tells us exactly where this market is headed. Canadian production itself is up. Light-duty vehicle output climbed to 1.54 million units last year, up from a pandemic low of 1.1 million. Still below Canada's peak of 2.9 million in 2000. But here's the twist. Thanks to complex tariff exemptions and loopholes, Canada now enjoys a competitive advantage over US plants. While Detroit scrambles under heavy costs, Canadian plants are rebalancing, attracting production and slowly clawing back relevance. And then there's Mexico, the quiet, underestimated player that has suddenly become the winner of this trade war. Mexico offers automakers lower labor costs, favorable trade routes, and the ability to export vehicles into markets increasingly wary of US tariffs. As Canada shifts its imports south, Mexico is rapidly cementing itself as North America's new auto hub. Every job lost in Detroit is a job Mexico is ready to take. Now step back and look at the bigger picture. Detroit isn't just a city, it's a symbol, the engine of the American dream, the place where cars weren't just built, they were born. Assembly lines that once represented innovation, power, and pride are now going silent. And each closed line is more than lost output. It's lost identity. Think about the contradiction here. Tariffs were supposed to punish foreign rivals. Instead, they're punishing American workers. Michigan, Ohio, the very states Trump promised to protect, are now paying the price. Car buyers across the country face sticker prices thousands of dollars higher because tariffs add costs at every stage of the supply chain. The supposed shield has turned into a sword, and it's cutting through the heart of America's auto belt. And this isn't just about economics. It's about people. The worker who gave 20 years to GM only to watch the plant gates close. The family who can no longer afford a new minivan because tariffs have added thousands to the price tag. The small-town businesses, diners, gas stations, hardware stores that collapse when a plant shuts its doors. The human cost is multiplying.
Here's what makes this even more dangerous. Once production leaves, it rarely comes back. Automakers don't abandon a city only to return when conditions improve. They move forward, not backward, which means every job, every factory Detroit loses now is likely gone forever. That's the permanence of this crisis. The psychology of collapse is just as corrosive. Workers who once felt secure now wonder if their livelihoods will survive the year. Investors who once saw Detroit as an industrial anchor now view it as a liability. And foreign competitors, Canada, Mexico, Europe, sense weakness. They're not just winning contracts, they're winning confidence. Detroit's unraveling is also America's unraveling, because if the US cannot protect its own crown jewel industry, what does that say about its ability to compete globally? If tariffs intended to create strength instead create vulnerability, what other sectors will follow? Steel, energy, technology. The stakes are brutal. This isn't just about one city or one industry. It's about the credibility of America's promise to its workers, a promise now broken. And the terrifying truth? This is only the beginning, because what happens in Detroit doesn't stay in Detroit. It ripples across the Midwest. It destabilizes supply chains. It rattles global investors. And it raises one question no one wants to confront. If Detroit falls, does America fall with it? Detroit's collapse isn't contained, it's contagious, and the tremors are already shaking the global economy. Start with the consumer. The average price of a new car in the US has surged past $48,000. That's thousands more than buyers paid just a few years ago. And tariffs are the hidden surcharge fueling the spike. Every imported part, every steel frame, every finished vehicle slapped with new costs that cascade straight onto the customer. And here's the kicker. Those higher prices don't mean higher wages for American workers. They mean higher tax revenues for Washington, $171.7 billion worth, the largest tax hike since 1993. And yet, the industry meant to be protected is shrinking. Consumers lose, workers lose, the government gains. Now, zoom out. Canada. For decades, it was the junior partner in North American auto. But today, it's seizing an opening. By importing more vehicles from Mexico than from the US, Canada has redrawn the trade map. Its factories, bolstered by tariff exemptions and niche advantages, are stabilizing, even regaining ground after 2 decades of decline. Canada isn't just surviving, it's positioning itself as a bridge between Mexico's rise and America's retreat. And then there's Mexico, the true dark horse. In 2021, Mexico produced nearly 3 million vehicles, most of them for export. Today, that number is climbing, fueled by Detroit's retreat. Automakers see Mexico as the cheaper, more predictable option. Lower labor costs, flexible regulations, open export channels. And as long as America keeps its tariff walls high, Mexico's factories will keep humming. Detroit's loss is Mexico's long-term gain. But the fallout doesn't stop in North America. Europe is watching. Asia is watching. Competitors like Germany, Japan, and South Korea know that every US misstep is their opportunity. If America can't deliver affordable cars, global buyers will turn elsewhere. Tesla, Ford, GM, their grip on international markets is loosening. And when market share slips, it rarely comes back. So where does this lead? 3 scenarios are unfolding. Scenario 1, the bleed out. Tariffs remain. Automakers continue fleeing. Detroit becomes a shadow of itself, producing fewer vehicles, losing contracts, shedding jobs. In this world, Mexico cements dominance, Canada adapts. America becomes a secondary player in an industry it once ruled. Scenario 2, the retrench. The US doubles down on subsidies and bailouts. Billions poured into Detroit to offset tariff damage. Short-term relief, maybe, but at what cost? Higher deficits, political backlash, and no guarantee of reversing the tide. Can America really buy back an industry that's already fleeing? Scenario 3, the reset. Tariffs are rolled back, trade policies rebalanced. Detroit gets breathing room, but even here, recovery is uncertain, because trust once broken is hard to restore. Automakers burned by unpredictability may never fully commit again, and foreign competitors will not surrender the ground they've gained.
Now let's turn back to the workers. They're not just statistics, they're lives. Each of those 38,000 vanished jobs represents a family thrown into crisis. Mortgages unpaid, kids pulled out of college, retirements postponed. The social cost of industrial collapse doesn't show up in GDP, but it shows up in despair. Detroit knows this cycle. It lived it in the 1980s. It lived it in the 2008 financial crash. And now it's living it again. Only this time, the stakes are bigger. Because this collapse isn't triggered by foreign competition alone. It's triggered by America's own hand. Think about that. A policy designed to protect jobs has destroyed them. A move meant to strengthen Detroit has crippled it. That contradiction is the heart of the crisis, and it raises a haunting question. If America cannot save Detroit, what else can't it save? Wall Street is already calculating. Investors are shifting money away from U.S. auto stocks. Supply chains are recalibrating. Confidence is evaporating. And once confidence goes, the spiral accelerates. Capital follows stability. And right now, stability is across the border. The political cost is just as steep. Trump promised to rebuild the American auto industry. Instead, his tariffs are writing its obituary. Allies abroad see weakness. Rivals see opportunity. And voters at home see betrayal. And here's the most chilling part. This collapse isn't confined to autos. It's a template. Steel, energy, technology. If tariffs keep spreading, other industries could follow Detroit's path. More jobs lost, more factories shuttered, more global influence slipping away. The auto crisis could be just the opening act. So where does this leave us? America faces a choice. Double down on a policy that is bleeding Detroit dry, or reverse course and risk political humiliation. Neither path is clean, neither path is easy. But one thing is certain, the cost of doing nothing is catastrophic. Because this isn't just about cars, it's about America's place in the world economy. It's about whether the nation can adapt or whether it clings to policies that drag it deeper into decline. And the longer it waits, the harder the recovery becomes.
Imagine it, a future where Canada, Mexico, and Asia decide the fate of North America's auto industry, while Detroit, once the motor capital of the world, stands silent. That's not a distant scenario. That's the trajectory we're already on. Detroit was once the symbol of American strength. Now it's the warning sign. 38,000 jobs gone, factories emptied, profits drained. A collapse born not of foreign enemies, but of America's own choices. And unless those choices change, the auto capital of the world may become its graveyard.